Good to see you all here. And I'm sure all of you love spooky stories. Do you? Yes. Ghost stories are really, really interesting. How many ghost stories have you read? Think. 5? Okay. 30 to 40. My God, that's a lot. Okay. So we have 2 books. Each one has got about 12 to 13 stories, longish stories. And they are set in historical places. Okay. So there's a real place, a real event, and then what happened. Now, ghost stories have existed for a very, very long time. Do you know about Halloween? Yes. Yes, everyone knows. Okay. So how did Halloween originate? Anyone has any idea? Okay, so what happened is, it started in Ireland, and it was started with some people known as the Celtics. Just like we are Indians, they were Celtics. So basically, the Halloween was known as a Samhain festival, and it started in Ireland and Britain by the Celts. Okay, now what happened is, after some time, it became All Saints' Day. You know All Saints' Day? So, and it spread because it was such a popular thing. Everyone loves ghosts. So, whether they are adults or they are children, they just love ghosts. And I'm sure all of you have read a lot of ghost stories. You'll remember as and when you spend some time thinking about it. So what happened is, over a period of time, All Saints' Day became Halloween Day. It was easy to pronounce, it was short, and everyone loved to say Halloween. So there came the pumpkins and the jack-o'-lanterns and the little, treat. Yeah, what's it called? Yes, you know that. So trick or treat came along, and it became a very, very popular thing. And now, in India also, people started celebrating Halloween. But there is something else that Indians celebrate, actually. Anyone can tell me about that? Does anyone know what's the equivalent? Pardon? Almost there. Anyone else? What is the equivalent, Indian equivalent of Halloween? What do we have? We have something. You all know about Halloween, but you don't know about the Indian one. Okay, here goes the answer. It's known as Bhoot Chaturdashi. Have you heard of it? Yes. Okay, now Bhoot Chaturdashi. Bhoot, is a ghost. And Chaturdashi is the day. Which day do we have this Bhoot Chaturdashi? Anyone knows about that? Just the day before Diwali. Okay. One day before Diwali is, some people call it Narak Chaturdashi. It's also known as Bhoot Chaturdashi. And what is the objective of that particular festival? We don't have trick or treat. We have something else. What do? We paint the house, we clean the house, and we, make it sparkling clean. Why do we do it? You must have seen in your house also painting being done and cleaning being done just a day before Diwali. Why? Can anyone tell me why? Okay, now here goes the story behind it. Bhoot Chaturdashi started, as legend goes, there was a couple, old couple, and they were very, very lazy. Their house was really dirty, full of cobwebs and darkness. And what happened? The bhoots started coming and living in those houses. Their house, and the darkest corners were the places the bhoots came and occupied. And slowly, these people used to just live in a little spot and just be there and not clean the rest of the house. So the bhoots had a great party. They used to celebrate a party every day there, because where would they get such a lot of space, which is never cleaned and is full of cobwebs? And then what happened? One day, they found that they're coming too close. And then the couple said, what do we do now? So someone said, clean up your house. So what did they do? They started cleaning it up, scrubbing it up and paint it. And the bhoot vanished. And then they put 14 lights. Do you know 14 diyas? Why? We light 14 diyas. Some places they eat 14 kinds of greens on that day. So all those have a meaning. We believe that we are actually praying for the souls of 14 generations. Chauda Purush, we call in India. And so we are praying for 14 generations of our ancestors. So we are paying respect to them so that they don't become ghosts. Okay? So this is basically a rough story about the Bhoot Chaturdashi, how it originated, what goes behind it. So now you can confidently say, I know what is Bhoot Chaturdashi, what is the equivalent of Halloween. So maybe you can start celebrating that also. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm sure you all want to know how to write spooky stories, right? Yes. So you want to write spooky stories? Okay. So now what I will do is, he is the co-author of spooky stories. He'll tell you exactly how he went about writing it. I have written a lot of books, but for him, what you hear from him is how you should be thinking of writing. Because he hasn't written so many books, he's written some books. So it's an experience that you should learn from. Over to Ajoy. There is a booth in that. Okay.
Good evening, friends.
Good evening.
If I can learn to write a spooky story at this stage, I'm sure all of you can write. You have to work hard. It is just like writing any other story. I will tell you the secret behind them, right? When I say spooky story, what comes to your mind? Ghosts. Yeah, right. What else? Mysteries, yes. Okay. Spirits, yeah. So if you look up the dictionary, it is something, yes, ghost is there, besides something terrible, something which scares you. Ghost is just one aspect of it. I have been in the army for 38 years. I have not written till that date. For 38 years in service, I did not write. But my wife, she used to write so many books, so many books. But when I retired, I had plenty of time. So I decided that I will assist her and then take up writing. So when I retired, that time she was writing this book, Spooky Stories. Right? So I said, I will help you. She said, you don't know how to write? How will you help me? I told her, I know. Writing story is so simple. It has three parts: the beginning, the middle, and the end. 30% the beginning, 40% middle, and 30% the end.
So easy. So now all of you can write stories.
Then she said, this is not enough. I said, I know much more. In the beginning, you introduce the characters, you write about the place. In the middle, you build up the plot, you narrate the events, and in the end, you write the conclusion, the climax, and the resolution? She said yes, to some extent. Then she said, this is just the technical part, but you have to have a concept. You have to think of a story. I said, simple. I've seen so many movies. There are so many stories. I can build up a story. She said, first, you must think of a story, divide it into parts, and the beginning is the most important. I said, okay. Then, when she was writing the ghost story, I said, I have a personal experience of the ghost.
He has seen a ghost, by the way. Yes, he'll tell you about it. And that book, that story is there in this book.
Okay, should I tell you?
Yes.
I hope you won't get scared.
If they get scared, then please don't tell.
Okay,
Spooky means getting scared.
okay. This was long time back when I was 21 years old. I was posted to Jalandhar. You know where Jalandhar is? A town in Punjab. I was allotted a room which was just next to a road. I was preparing for my exam, which we all have to appear in the army. So what happened? I used to do masti throughout the day and study after dinner. At night, when all was quiet, I could concentrate, and that was the best time I found to study. Around midnight, I could hear somebody walking on the road outside my room. I parted the curtain of the window and saw a lady in white walking past. She had ghunguru on her feet and chum, chum, chum. She went past. I said, "Theek hai, jaane do." Then after half an hour, she came back in the opposite direction. I thought it is funny. I let it go. The first day it happened. The second day it happened. The third day. Then I decided to confront. Then I said, no. If I confront her, she might start yelling, and then all the other officers will come out, and then they will create a scene. After the fifth day, one new officer arrived, second lieutenant. And since the other rooms were occupied, we were made to share the room. We were the junior most. When he came, the very first night while I was studying, he also joined me because he also had to appear for the exam, and we were studying. Chum, chum, chum. He said, "What is that?" I said, "It's a lady going." He parted and he saw, yes. He said, "I'm going to find out who this lady is. Why is she creating a racket?" I said, "Don't." He stayed put. He didn't do anything. Second day again, when she came round, he was in a bad mood. He said, "This is not on." So when she went past the first time, he placed a log on the road. When she came back, she jumped over it and went away. The third day, he said, "I'm going to catch hold of her." And then you'll be surprised. When she came at midnight, he tried to catch hold of her. He put his arm first to block her road path. She just went past. He felt his hand turn cold like ice, and he didn't know what happened, and he fell down. And after some time, he came back. And that was the time he decided that he will do something about it. He didn't tell me anything. Later on, I got to know that he was the son of a senior army officer, of a major general. He had a pistol with him. Now, in the army, if you have a pistol, you have to keep it in the quarter guard, where all the arms and where the arms and ammunition is kept. So he, at night, the previous day, he got the gun issued and he didn't tell me about it. So at midnight, when the lady came, went past the first time, he didn't do anything. When she came back, when she was returning, he said, I'm going to follow her. I said, don't. He showed me the pistol. He said, I'm going to follow her. She must be going somewhere and I will definitely follow. When she was going back, he took out his pistol and he started following. He told me that he is going to find out where she's coming and going from. I got scared. I told him, please don't. He didn't listen. He started following with the pistol. The pistol was loaded. I followed about 50 meters behind. It was January, it was cold, it was foggy. And then we started following the lady in front. 50 meters behind was my friend, and I was following him 50 meters behind. We kept on following for 2 kilometers. And then what happened? The lady went to a graveyard. She didn't open the gate. She just went through the gate, we don't know how, and went out of sight. My friend, when he reached the gate, he jumped over the gate because it was locked, and he went inside. I stood at the gate, and after some time I couldn't see them. They went past, they went further inside. I waited, and after that I heard a gunshot. I got scared. I waited for some time, waiting for my friend to come, thinking he will come. He didn't come. Meanwhile, hearing the gunshot, the sentry at the graveyard, he came out. I saw him. I said, what happened? He said, I don't know. There was a gunshot. Then we both went inside, and you know what we saw? My friend was shot dead. He had a bullet through his head, and he was holding on to a sari. And where did the sari end? It was inside the grave. This was it. And that is how it ended. Later on, when his parents arrived, later when his parents arrived, we got to know a different story. He was born and brought up there, that officer, when his father was posted there, and that is how it ended. Right. Now, this is a real story, and this story you will find in this book. Right. Now, what is the difference between a movie and a spooky story? In a movie, it is very easy. You can see the scene, you can see the dark space, you can see frightening places, there will be cobwebs all over, you can see the shadows.
The chairs, just drag them down. Anyone who wants to take a chair, the chairs.
So what happens if while writing a spooky story, you cannot produce the sound which you see in a movie, you cannot create shadows which are there in a movie. So what is most important when you write a spooky story is to have the story first. Thereafter, you have to describe in detail the character, the place, and after that you have to select the correct words to describe everything, right? So just remember, get the story first, divide it into the various parts, and then choose the right words and the right place, fit them, and you'll get a story. When I showed her the story, she said this is not good enough, you write again. I said no, this is the right word. She said no, this is not the right word, you write like this. So we used to have a lot of fights. But in the end, what's the result? This is the result. When you read this book, you will see how the words are used, how the descriptions are given. So those who wish to write, you have to read. She told me to read 100 stories to write one book, and that is what I did, and the result is here. And
Okay.
here.
Now, I'll just tell you one thing. When you start any story, what do you think of? You think of the plot, okay? With that plot, you imagine it happening in front of you. You think of the characters that should fit into the plot. You cannot have a story about a spooky, kind of a encounter with some funny characters in it. Or maybe you can actually. So you have to use your imagination and put characters which fit the story. Secondly, you need to find a good setting. Most of the spooky stories will be set in haunted houses or hills or misty, foggy areas. There'll be something sinister about the place, right? There'll be something scary about the place. There can be an old mansion, it can be an old fort, it can be a palace, it can be a whole lot of things. You can put it in a hill station, and you can even put it in a beach. We have actually got a story about a beach, a ghost which used to come and drag people into the sea. And it's set in a medical college in Gujarat. And this is a place which is real. And this beach has black sand. When you read the book, you'll get to know the names. So there, it is supposed to have been a cremation ground once, and today there are ghosts. So like that, you think of something and build upon it. When you think twice or thrice and you start thinking and imagining, you'll find that in your mind the story takes shape. Don't be in a hurry to put it down. Do you blog? Any of you? Does any of you blog? No? No bloggers here? You do? Okay, good. So what you should do firstly is start a blog. I always tell children who want to write stories, they start with blogging. Open an account, blogging account. Why? You have one? Yes, that's very good. Because it allows you to put your thoughts in that. And then you can share it with your friends. You can show it to your teachers. You can show it to your parents. Once you start blogging, you will start getting confident. You need confidence because you don't know if anyone is going to read your story or not. So to get that confidence, you need to start putting your thoughts somewhere. And then when you read it, you'll realize it's not flowing properly. It's not, happening in the sequence that it should happen. You yourself will go correct it and edit it. Once you keep doing that twice or thrice, it will be in a presentable state. And when it is in a presentable state, show it to your friends. First, ask them for their opinion and their suggestions. When they give suggestions, you incorporate them. Okay? And that's how you start getting confidence. You don't start writing straight away a book, right? Everything takes a little time. So do that. That exercise will help you. Now here, I have someone who published her first poem at the age of 5 in a newspaper. And then she went on writing for various children's magazines. Children's World, then you have Young World, then you have newspaper supplements which are known, for children, at least they used to be there. and there are stories which are published in that. As she published, she grew more confident, and over a period of time, by the time she reached 10th standard, she was writing very frequently. She started writing a novella. What is a novella? Novella is a short novel. Okay. So, but then she wanted to do engineering. So what happened? I'll let that person tell you the experience firsthand. Today she is an international blogger. She is she has a podcast. She is working for Amazon Web Services in HR, and she's a very good writer. And she coincidentally happens to be my daughter, who just saw me writing and started getting interested, and she first published at the age of 5. I hand over to Ankita.
Thank you. So I'm going to try and give you some tips about how I started writing, why I was writing, but talk a little bit about myself, because who doesn't like to do that? As you know, my mom is an author, so I grew up reading and surrounded by books, and ever since I started learning to thread words into a sentence, my mom would be like, write something. And you know how 5-year-olds are, right? They're just like, stop annoying me, I'll write something. So I did. My first poem was something about rain. I think it went like, rain, rain, go away, come, yeah, another, I don't know, probably something from the internet, but you could find something there out now. It sounds similar, but that was my first poem. I don't remember what it was. What I do remember, though, is the feeling after it was published, because suddenly everyone wanted to be my friend. Everyone was like, ooh, you got a poem in a newspaper. Teachers liked me better. So my motivation to write my next poem was the fact that I was now popular. You know how they say, oh, you know, authors get this motivation from writing and the whole process of writing, and the whole joy is just in writing something, and they write for themselves. I'm not like that. I wrote only so that others would read it, I would be more popular. I clearly remember my second poem. I tried combining the things I liked at that time, which was Scooby-Doo. Is Scooby-Doo still around? The second poem that I do remember, and what I do remember is, after it was published, I was called in front of the assembly, asked to recite the poem, and I got even more popular. So my motivation to write came from just the feeling after, and I thought maybe that's wrong, because everyone tells you, oh, you know, writers write because the process is great. I can tell you, and my mom can confirm, and so can my dad, very few writers enjoy the journey of writing. That journey is usually a pain. It is when you have written, that's when you love it. So, lesson one that I learned was, forget that motivation of, you know, just enjoying the process of writing and blah, blah, blah. You are lucky if you enjoy it, that's great. But there is greater satisfaction at the end product, right? So, if you hate the process, stick with it. You might really like what comes out at the end of it. So if you're motivated by popularity or whatever external validation, that's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. So obviously I wrote a few poems, and then I wrote a lot, and then I stopped writing when I started my 10th, because, you know, board exams, you need to get serious about your studies and so on. So I stopped writing then. And it got really hard for me to get back into it. So I said, okay, I finished 10th, I should probably write something. I wrote something, it was terrible. I think my mom sent it to publishing, it got rejected, and I was like, I don't know why. I read it again, I understood why. So that's something like my mom said, right? Your first, I love the number 100, so your first 100 odd things that you write will probably be bad, mediocre. That's why the session is how to write spooky stories and not how to write good spooky stories. Because you first have to write probably 100 spooky stories, and then maybe you'll get a good one. So that's it, like, just write. And blogging is great. do that. But even if you don't want to do it, get pen, paper, or a laptop and just start writing. If you don't know what to write, a good place to start is journaling. I started writing a dear diary since I was in 5th standard, and I continued it till 2020. I used to write a page a day, as often as I could. But just start writing. How was your day? Oh, I went and heard the session today at the Pune Lit Fest. It was blah blah blah. Just get into the habit of learning to write. The other thing that people advise is free writing. So you just open a page and just do it a dump. It's also for mental health and everything else. But what I learned is, unless you get into the habit of just turning up and writing something, you'll always be like, oh, I don't know a topic for my spooky story. Should my ghost be white or black or brown or pink or yellow? Just write. So that's what I started doing. Every year in my goal list, I say apply to the Commonwealth Short Story Competition, which you can do actually. So once a year, they open up for stories. I get so into my head, what should the topic of the story be? Where should it be set? I have not started my story for 3 years. So that's the thing. Just start, write whatever comes, pick any topic, and kill your inner critic first. Once you have done like 3 revisions of it, then you can go show it to your friends, who will give you feedback if they're well-meaning friends or parents or teachers and so on. But the first step is to just start writing and just kill the inner critic that's in you. I can go on forever on all my failure stories, but I'm going to hand it back to someone who's actually been successful in writing. So you can take it over and we take it from there.
I made her speak because you relate to this. Did you relate to it? Yes. Because she's telling it the way she experienced it, right from the age of 5. And I know one thing that I can tell you is that you got to read a lot. Reading builds up imagination. People think they can just start writing. That doesn't happen. You got to read a lot. Before you start writing, I keep telling, a lot of people come up and ask me, how do I write a book? How do I get published? Because everyone wants a shortcut, and there are no shortcuts. It is always about hard work. Everything is hard. Even if you want to have a good friend, you need to work on that relationship. Similarly, for writing stories, you got to work on it. You not get overnight success. It doesn't happen in any field. Even when you want to be a scientist or an engineer or stand first in the class, don't you study hard? Don't you compete? Don't you work hard? You do that. So how can writing be so easy? It can't. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people wanting to write, and there's just so many readers. So to write, to be a writer, you need readers first. Yes, I think someone wanted to ask me questions. Please, you feel free to ask any questions that you want, any clarifications you want. Okay, he first asked, so I'll ask him. Give me your name.
Ashutosh.
Yeah.
Now the first thing you said about writing a horror story, the environment should be something like out of the blue or something odd. Now what I wanted to ask, what if it's just ordinary? Like out of the blue something just happens in your own home, won't that be more scary? Because like you know that you are not safe. So basically the environment should be like to tell the reader he is not safe at all, he can die at any moment due to a ghost.
That's a very good idea. Very good. Please give him a clap. He has already got an idea, work on it. See, when you have an idea and it is different, you got it right. Right? So just work on it, expand. Ashutosh, think about it. Think a little more. Once you think, you'll get clarity. And only start writing when you get clarity. Otherwise, you'll all be muddled up. And then you'll find a muddled up thing. Yeah, someone else here.
Who inspires you to write these spooky stories?
I think children do. See, I have written in various genres, from historicals to military to crime. I have written a lot of books in different genres. But I thought, I should write something about, for the children or teenagers, actually, young adults. So that's how I decided. But then these books are different. They are set in different places. Like there's a lot of knowledge you're getting in a way, very subtly. Like I have written a story about the tombs in Egypt. You all know about the mummies and the tombs, right? Valley of Kings, Valley of Queens. In fact, I went there. I'm a very big traveler, so I have traveled all over. And one of the places I loved was Egypt. So there is a story in which, there is a tomb which this archaeologist goes into, and suddenly there is a ghost there. And it's not really, blatant ghost. There is a god which the Egyptians, ancient Egyptians used to worship. He was the god of the dead. So when he goes inside.
Set?
No.
Anubis?
Yes. Anubis. Anubis has got the head of a.
Good check out.
Yes. And the body of a. Yes. So most of these tombs, when I went and I saw, I was very fascinated. They have statues and whole lot of drawings. The walls are covered with hundreds and hundreds of inscriptions and drawings. Anubis is very popular he was very popular god in ancient Egypt because he was the god of afterlife. So this archaeologist, he goes into that burial place and he goes in clandestinely because it was out of bounds. So what happens is his guide gets into the cave, the burial ground, and there is a little pit there which the excavators were digging. And suddenly the Anubis statue from the wall gets detached and it falls straight, a heavy statue on the guide, and he gets buried into the pit. Now why did it happen? The explanation is the ancient Egyptians believed that you have to pay all your debts in this life. If you don't pay, you will keep getting haunted. Now more about the story is in this book. Then again there is one about the Forbidden Palace in China, where there one king, which is a true incident, very, very old time, there was a king. He had over 100 concubines. And once what happened is his favorite wife gets poisoned. Now this king gets very angry. He feels one of the 100 have killed her. So what does he do? He gets all of them beheaded. So that place is supposed to be haunted by the spirits of those beheaded concubines. Now our story is like that I have had a journalist who wants to have a really good story to write about in her newspaper. So she gets into the Forbidden Palace, she hides there, and after dark she's there, and there she confronts the ghosts that come there to dance at night. Hundreds of ghosts. So we have stories like this in the spooky stories. These are not the the cat jumping suddenly like you saw in the ghost movies, and then Gunguru and what else did we see in those movies? It's different. It's got historical relevance. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
So I just have a small question. Like when you're writing a ghost story, in what time, what point should you actually make everything decent, and when should you write the climax? Because when I write my ghost story, at first I either write it too short, like I make everything decent in the first two chapters, and then suddenly in the third chapter I reach the climax, but it feels like very sudden. And then when I do it too long, then I also find it bored myself.
You shouldn't target to write a very long story right in the beginning. Don't write a novel. Right?
More difficult to write a short story than write a novel.
Yeah, just try 1,000 words. And like my co-author Ajoy said, divide it into 3 parts. I would say 4 parts. 25, 25, the beginning and the end. So that makes it 50. The rest of the 50 is the build-up and the action. And that is applicable for any book, any story, anything that you are writing. That's the principle, the formula on which the pillars are, those of anything that you are building. So target 25% in which you introduce your plot, the story, the setting, the characters. Introduce it there, then lead the reader into the main story, where the action is taking place, where a lot of things will happen. And it should keep building up, building up, building up, till it reaches a climax, and then bring it down. How you have these classical music, like that. And the end, again, should be slightly mysterious, slightly puzzling. So that, pardon?
Open to sequels.
Yeah, open to sequels. Ashutosh has got right ideas. Yeah, yes. Ashutosh, wait.
Me?
Yes.
So,
What's your name?
Nishita. So I actually have this love for writing, and I've tried writing many times, but I don't understand how should I make the scene more describing it. Like especially in spooky stories, the scene should be described. There should be an image in the reader's mind to qualify him or something. So how should I make the scene more describing?
Something must be frightening you. Sometimes. Something must have frightened you. You must have imagined something. Yes? Put that in words. You saw sort of, shadow. You saw some, breeze moving a curtain when you really didn't expect anything. Or whatever. Whatever you fear, just put it in words. Your own experience, that's the best. If you relive your experiences, that is the best. In every book you'll find it is so vivid because they are actually describing something at one time they would have experienced. Try it. Ghosts are there. How many believe there are ghosts? He's asking me whether the ghosts. No one believes.
I believe there are ghost hunters.
Okay, only few. Rest are very brave. Very brave. You don't believe. Good. Then how will you write a spooky story?
He'll watch movies.
No. See, there are lots of. Have you seen God? Have you seen God? Anyone saw God? No? But you believe there is God? Why?
Our choice.
Your choice. So it is your choice to believe or not whether there is a ghost or not. Very few people have seen, but yet we know there might be some spirit. But you know what? I have seen, means I have not seen a ghost, but sometimes you're sitting somewhere and you get a funny feeling, that something is there around you, an eerie kind of feeling. Or you enter a house somewhere and suddenly you get the creeps, some creepy feeling. So what's that? Sixth sense telling you something is wrong. So it has, whatever we used to think it's impossible. Now everything is coming possible, right? We see E.T. Okay, when E.T. was released, that movie, well, what is E.T.? There's nothing extraterritorial. What is it? Now they're talking about spaceships and this and that. We don't still know. There's no proof. But there must be something. So whatever is imagined, there has to be some sort of a truth in it. And years later, the researchers will prove that yes, it exists. So we never know. Someday it will be proved. And by the way, there are some instruments. You have heard of ghost investigators, paranormal investigators? Yeah. So what is happening? They're going to a house. They have gadgets which detect the presence of ghosts. And then how is it? Is it fake? But lots of people believe in it because they pay a huge amount to get these paranormal, researchers to come and investigate their plot or property and then declare, okay, there are no ghosts, then only they'll build the house. So there must be some truth in it, okay? Yes?
So once I had an incident like this, I was alone at home and then I thought I heard my mom calling from the bathroom. And then I was like, there's nobody at home. And then I heard it 2 or 3 more times. And so I just went to the bathroom to see, and then there was nobody there. And then there was just a cold wind over there.
Yeah. So that's it. One of the indications they say of a ghostly presence is the dipping in temperature. The rest of the house might be very, very okay, warmish, but that particular spot, and that's how the paranormal investigators also discover initially that one particular spot will be cold. So that's how it is.
Like why there is a particular area in British Fort? Is it the place where the ghost has to be? Is it the place the ghost target?
Okay, there is something which I can tell you. YouTube, you go to YouTube and you just search for paranormal investigations. You know, there is, I have a friend who does this, and they have gone to a place called Bhangar, which is supposed to be very, very spooky, and so they have some kind of a meter, canine meter or something, where the ghost answers. They, sort of ask a question, and they say if it is yes, then you blink once, and if it is a no, then you blink twice, kind of a thing. So they have found that the ghost rarely replies. So there must be something. I haven't done it myself, but I've heard of it. Wait, I should give chance to others also. Anyone else? Yes.
Horror is a hard topic story. So what are some new elements and new topics to write?
Okay, I think it's time to ask you, what kind of ghost story books have you read? Has anyone been reading ghost stories?
I have been experiencing it.
Oh my God. He's a much experienced person. Huh? Yeah, Goosebumps. Your favorite.
It's monster, not horror.
No, I'm talking about ghosts. It's got ghosts, right? Ghost stories. When was the first ghost story written and by whom? Okay, this is a question. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Okay, 1. When was the first published version of ghost stories, and which writer wrote it? It's a very famous book.
Can I give 2 vague answers?
No, you can't. No vague answers. You have to go share. And no Googling. Yeah? Huh?
Is it Dracula?
Huh?
Dracula?
No, he is more of a horror. Have you heard of Canterville Ghosts? Canterville Ghosts? Yeah, that was one of the first ones, and it was written by Oscar Wilde in 1880s. Okay, and who can give me 3 ghost story writers, famous ones? Okay.
Stephen King, whoever wrote Dracula, whoever wrote Frankenstein.
Okay, I think I'll have to end because there is a lot of, they have to go.